picture this. You're walking through your neighborhood.
Right, just a normal afternoon stroll.
Exactly. And you happen to glance through a living room window. And curled up on this plush velvet sofa nested among some decorative throw pillows is a small terrier.
Oh, yeah, like Jack Russell.
Yeah, a Jack Russell, or maybe a Manchester-terrier. And it's just snoozing away, occasionally twitching its little paws in its sleep.
Looking like the absolute picture of harmless, domesticated bliss.
Yes. It is incredibly easy to look at that animal and categorize it purely as like a soft, pampered lapdog.
I mean, it is a very comforting image, and it's the one most of us are familiar with, right? We see the small stature and the scruffy face, and we just project a very specific, modern idea of pet companionship right onto them.
But looking through the source material we compiled for you today, it's this collection of historical texts and modern profiles of working dog crews, collectively titled Text. That entire perception just gets completely shattered.
Oh, totally.
That little dog on the couch is actually a highly specialized athlete. Underneath that cute exterior is a creature descended from a line of fierce, uncompromising historical hunters.
It's the ultimate case of a book being judged entirely by its cover. I mean, the physiological and the psychological engineering inside that small animal is staggering when you actually pull back the layers.
So welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to track the surprisingly intense evolution of rat-baiting terriers. We are charting a course from the dark, smoky blood sports of the 19th century.
Which gets pretty intense.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
All the way to their modern-day role as vital ecological heroes protecting global food supplies.
The trajectory of these breeds is wildly unique. You rarely see an animal's primary function shift from, underground Victorian gambling rings to high-end, eco-friendly agricultural pest control.
Right.
But to understand how we got to the modern application, we really have to look closely at the incredibly intense functional breeding that hardwired these dogs in the first place.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the gritty origins, because the sources paint a very stark picture of the 19th century.
They do. It was a different world.
During the Industrial Revolution, cities were rapidly expanding, right? Sanitation was practically non-existent, and rat populations just absolutely exploded.
Yeah, it was a massive public health crisis.
And in response, ratting wasn't just like a daily chore for these terriers. It became a massive, brutal blood sport.
Well, the Victorian era had a profoundly different relationship with animals and entertainment, and the sanitation crisis basically provided the raw material for it.
Which gave rise to the rat pits.
Exactly. The phenomenon of the rat pit. You have to envision a crowded, dimly lit tavern or a subterranean cellar.
Lots of smoke, I imagine.
Heavy smoke in the air, immense noise. And in the center of the room, there's a physical pit enclosed by smooth wooden walls, so nothing can climb out. The operators would dump dozens, sometimes literally hundreds of live rats into that enclosure.
Followed by a single terrier.
Precisely. And the entire spectacle was fueled by high-stakes gambling. The audience would bet heavy sums of money on exactly how many rats a specific dog could kill within a strict, predetermined time limit.
Wow.
It was a brutal, visceral test of speed, agility, and lethal efficiency.
The sources actually single out one dog in particular that forces you to rethink what a terrier is even physically capable of. A Manchester Terrier known as the Legend Billy.
Billy is a fascinating case study.
I mean, in the year 1823, Billy was dropped into one of these pits and managed to kill 100 rats in just over 5 minutes.
Which is almost hard to comprehend.
Right. To hit a number like that in that time frame, that's roughly one rat every 3 seconds. Billy couldn't have just been biting and holding onto them.
No, absolutely not.
He had to be operating like a specialized threshing machine, just neutralizing targets with almost mechanical repetition without ever getting overwhelmed by the swarm. It's like comparing a regular person jogging to an elite sprinter breaking an impossible world record. It's a biological machine.
The biomechanics required to achieve that are just fascinating. Because Billy wasn't some freak accident of nature, He was the intended result of raw, functional breeding.
Right.
Breeders in the Victorian era, they didn't care about the shape of a dog's ears or how well it cuddled on the sofa. They cared exclusively about the stopwatch and the body count. They were engineering a predator scaled down to navigate tight spaces.
So what exactly were they selecting for to get that kind of lethal efficiency?
Several distinct physiological traits. First, an incredibly low center of gravity, combined with explosive, fast-twitch muscle fibers. That allows for rapid, multi-directional pivoting.
Okay, so quick movements.
Exactly. Second, they bred away from the soft mouth.
The soft mouth, like what a golden retriever has.
Yes, exactly. A retriever is designed to carry a bird without piercing the meat. But for terriers, they selected for immense jaw strength and massive cervical muscles in the neck. The terrier doesn't kill by prolonged biting.
Oh, it doesn't.
No, it bites and instantly delivers a violent lateral shake. That lateral snap severs the rat's cervical vertebrae, killing it instantly.
Wow. Which explains the speed. Billy was just snapping necks and immediately pivoting to the next kinetic target. Like I said, a hyper-calibrated biological instrument.
It really is. And they also bred for a massive tolerance for pain because, a cornered rat will fight back fiercely.
Oh, for sure.
So the terriers had to possess an unquenchable drive to hunt that completely overrode any instinct for self-preservation or pain avoidance.
Which makes the historical pivot we see next even more interesting.
Yeah.
Because society eventually outgrew that brutality, right?
Thankfully, yes.
As we move through the 19th and into the 20th century, animal cruelty laws evolved. The underground rat pits and the blood sports were finally outlawed. The gambling rings vanished.
But the dogs didn't.
Exactly. You can't just unbreed generations of apex predators overnight. You suddenly have this massive population of highly tuned, hyper-efficient hunters without a stage.
They found themselves entirely unemployed. But the same industrialization that created the rat problem in the cities had also created massive agricultural hubs. And those hubs desperately needed pest control. So the dogs transitioned out of the taverns and returned to their roots as farmhands.
And our sources highlight that this exact pivot accidentally positioned them perfectly for the modern world. Today, these exact same terrier breeds are operating as highly sought-after, eco-friendly pest control.
It's huge industry now.
Yeah, and they are working everywhere from grain silos to major metropolitan centers. Let's look at the urban application first, because the text details volunteer groups operating right now in cities like New York and London. There's a specific group in New York called RATS.
Right, the Writers' Alley Trencher Fed Society.
That's the one.
They are a prime example of repurposing historical instincts for modern sanitation.
I have to push back on the logistics of this, though, because I'm trying to visualize taking a pack of high-drive hunting dogs into a New York City alley at night.
It sounds like a lot.
I mean, I've walked down those alleys. You have massive piles of garbage, sirens blaring, pedestrians, stray cats, traffic at the end of the block. Taking an animal bred for relentless hunting into that environment sounds like a recipe for a traffic accident, or just total, uncontrollable mayhem.
What's fascinating here is how the handlers mitigate that exact chaos. To an outsider, it might sound like releasing a pack of wild animals into the city, but it is actually a highly orchestrated tactical system.
Really?
Yeah, these urban volunteer groups operate almost like a specialized military unit. The dogs aren't just let off the leash to run wild through Manhattan.
So how do they maintain a perimeter in an open city?
The humans do the perimeter control. The handlers scout the alleys beforehand. They secure the exits. They use heavy boots to block escape routes. And they use high-powered flashlights to illuminate specific target areas.
Like the trash bags.
Exactly, usually massive overflowing trash bags where the rats are feeding. The dogs are actually trained to stay in a holding position until the handlers flush the rats out from the debris.
Oh, wow. So they wait.
They wait. The terriers don't chase blindly down the street. They operate within a highly localized strike zone. When the rat breaks from cover, the dog strikes with the exact same 3-second efficiency we saw in the Victorian pits.
So they are essentially acting as surgical instruments in a city alleyway. They get in, neutralize the target locally, and move to the next pile.
Precisely. And that same localized precision makes them incredibly valuable on the agricultural side, too, particularly on modern grain farms.
Right. The text mentions terriers are clearing out massive infestations on grain farms, which feels so crucial when you consider the alternative. Without dogs, a massive grain silo operation usually has to rely on poison.
And poison is an incredibly blunt, destructive instrument, especially in agriculture. I mean, rodenticides don't just kill rats. If you use toxic chemicals in a facility that stores grain, you run a massive risk of chemical contamination entering the global human food supply.
Not to mention the secondary ecological damage. A poisoned rat doesn't just evaporate.
No, it doesn't.
It crawls into the walls of the barn to die, creating a severe biohazard and hygiene issue as it decays. Or Worse, it crawls outside and gets eaten by a local predator.
Bioaccumulation is a massive issue. Owls, hawks, and foxes, they consume the poisoned rats, and the neurotoxins build up in their systems. It ends up devastating local wildlife populations.
That's awful.
It is. But the terrier crews eliminate this entirely. They are a clean, biological alternative. They clear the barn of the infestation, the bodies are physically removed by the handlers, and the grain remains completely free of toxic chemicals.
It is a brilliant closed-loop solution.
Yeah.
But, reading through the accounts of these modern crews, whether they are navigating a neon-lit alley in New York or a dusty grain silo in the Midwest, I kept coming back to the mechanics of their control.
The training aspect.
Right. How do you take an animal that has been bred for lethal violence and keep it from tearing the farm apart?
Well, to understand that, we have to look away from the environment and look closely at the internal wiring of the dog. Because the secret to this level of control isn't based on relentless, repetitive obedience training.
It isn't.
No. You aren't teaching the dog every single step of the process. It works because of a deeply ingrained instinctual trigger.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources refer to it as an instinctual switch. A true ratter does not need to be taught how to hunt. The knowledge is already fully compiled and sitting in their genetics.
It's hardwired.
Yeah. Instead of a computer program, it seems more like a mousetrap under immense spring tension. It requires zero conscious thought or training to snap shut the moment the kinetic trigger, a scurrying rat, hits the wire.
That is exactly how the neurology operates. Think about a border collie herding sheep, or a pointer lifting its paw to point at a bird.
Right. Nobody teaches them that posture.
Exactly. No one has to teach them the biomechanics of those actions. The behavior is hardwired. For the terrier, the visual stimulus of small, erratic movement flips the switch. And the modern crews utilize this instinct through what the sources call the partnership.
Right, because this isn't a wolf hunting alone in the wilderness. It is a highly evolved, high-stakes game of teamwork between the human and the terrier. The humans are doing the heavy lifting, literally.
Yeah, the handlers are the ones moving the heavy pallets in the alley, or shifting massive 1,000-pound hay bales with a tractor on the farm.
And the dog understands its own physical limitations. It knows it cannot move the hay bale to get to the nest. So it waits. It watches the human with intense, unbroken focus.
The human is the flusher and the dog is the finisher. The human moves the obstacle, flushing the prey out into the open, and the dog's mousetrap instinct instantly takes over to execute the catch.
It's a symbiotic hunting relationship that spans centuries.
It really is.
But as effective as that is, there is a second psychological component detailed in our sources that I think is arguably even more impressive than the hunting instinct.
Ah, the neurological dampening.
Yes, the off switch. We've spent the last 10 minutes analyzing these animals as ruthless, highly calibrated terminators, and in the barn or the alley, they absolutely are.
They are completely focused.
They possess a massive, intense prey drive that floods their system with adrenaline and dopamine. But the moment the job is done, the moment they step back inside the farmhouse, they completely power down.
The switch flips back. The adrenaline pathways close and the oxytocin pathways take over.
Our sources emphasize that despite their lethal intensity in the field, these breeds are incredibly loyal, affectionate, and gentle companions in the home.
It's a striking contrast.
It makes me think of high-stakes human professions, like an elite emergency responder, or maybe a trauma surgeon, someone who goes to work, experiences massive life-or-death adrenaline spikes, performs with absolute surgical precision under pressure.
And then they just clock out.
Exactly. They clock out, go home, put on sweatpants, and calmly drink tea on the sofa.
That duality is remarkable. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of functional breeding, we realize that this off switch wasn't just a happy accident. It was an absolute necessity.
Because I imagine a dog that couldn't turn that prey drive off would be a complete nightmare for a farmer.
Oh, completely unmanageable.
If you have an animal locked in a state of high adrenaline hunting 24/7, the moment the rats are gone, that dog is going to start looking for other targets. It's going to go after the farmer's chickens. It's going to view the barn cats as prey.
Right.
It might even snap at the farmer's children.
Yeah.
It would be an active, dangerous liability.
And because of that, it would be culled from the breeding pool immediately. Over generations, humans couldn't just breed for aggression. They had to selectively breed for a highly specific, dual-natured psychological profile.
Lethal outside, gentle inside.
Exactly. They demanded ruthless, uncompromising efficiency in the barn, paired with gentle domestic tractability in the kitchen. They engineered a predator that intuitively knows exactly when the hunt begins and exactly when it ends.
So what does this all mean for us today? When we synthesize all these sources, from the grim historical economics of the Victorian rat pits to the modern profiles of the Writer's Alley volunteer crews, the overarching takeaway is that the rat dog is a living, breathing testament to the profound power of selective breeding over centuries.
They are a perfectly designed biological solution to a sanitation problem that has plagued human civilization since the dawn of agriculture.
They aren't just cute little lap dogs. They never were. They are highly specialized athletes. For hundreds of years, they have been quietly protecting our food supplies, preventing the spread of devastating diseases, and maintaining human hygiene in ways we rarely acknowledge or appreciate.
They've effectively been carrying the weight of our agricultural sanitation on their very small shoulders, operating entirely under the radar.
So I want to ask you, the listener, directly. The next time you see a small terrier, maybe that exact one curled up on the velvet pillow we talked about at the start of this deep dive, will you view them differently?
Will you look at that little snoozing face and recognize the gritty, heroic lineage underneath?
It's hard to look at them the same way once you understand the biomechanics and history packed into that small frame. The contrast between their appearance and their capability is what makes them so enduringly fascinating.
Our sources actually posed a great question that I want to pass on to you. When you look at this lineage, what grabs your attention more?
Yeah, are you more fascinated by the dark, intense history of the Victorian pits and the raw, kinetic energy of legends like Billy? Or are you more drawn to the modern-day application? These volunteer vigilantes and their dogs acting as a chemical-free defense line for our cities and farms today.
It raises an important question not just about the terrier, but about the rest of the environment we've curated for ourselves. Both eras highlight the incredible adaptability of the breed, applying their genius in completely different centuries.
Exactly. And before we wrap up today's deep dives, I want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to mull over on your own. We've just spent all this time uncovering the hidden nature of the terrier. We've seen how they possess this deeply ingrained instinctual switch that instantly transforms them from cuddly companions into elite hunters the exact moment a hay bale is moved.
The triggers are always there, just waiting.
Right. So think about all the other domestic animals we share our homes with every single day. The cats sleeping in the sunbeam, the exotic birds preening in their cages, the other breeds of dogs snoring quietly on the rug. If the terrier is hiding, a finely tuned Victorian assassin, just beneath its scruffy surface.
This is hiding.
Exactly. What other dormant primal instincts might be hiding in the animals we think we know so perfectly well? What ancestral coding is just sitting there in your living room right now, quietly waiting for the exact right kinetic trigger to flip the switch? Something to think about the next time you look at that little terrier sleeping on the couch.